Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening ash crunched beneath Lena's feet as she fled across the scorched plain. Her breath coming in ragged gasps, the wound on her side burned with each step, but the pain paled against the fear driving her forward. Behind her, the green-skinned warriors closed in, their hoods billowing in the hot wind. They made no sound, not even their footfalls disturbed the ash-covered ground, but she could feel their presence growing closer. Spears drawn and ready, Lena's blue skin, normally vibrant in the sunlight, was dulled by soot and exhaustion. Her 25 years had never prepared her for this desperate flight across a battlefield long abandoned by all but the dead. A misstep sent her tumbling down an unexpected slope, and she crashed into a forgotten trench, her fall cushioned by something that cracked beneath her weight. As the dust settled, Lena found herself surrounded by bones, the remnants of soldiers whose battle had ended years ago. Twisted metal and charred wreckage lined the walls of the trench, remnants of a war she had only heard about in hushed whispers. That's when she saw it, buried in the ash, something gleamed, untouched by time and destruction, a silver crown, delicately crafted and impossibly clean amid the devastation. It seemed to pulse with an inner light, as if fire had been trapped in glass waiting to be released. Compelled by an instinct she couldn't name, Lena reached toward it, her fingers trembled as they hovered above the silver surface. The crown's glow intensified, responding to her proximity like a living thing. The moment her fingers made contact, everything changed. The pursuit stopped, the silence deepened. Lena turned to find the green-skinned warriors standing at the edge of the trench, their weapons lowered. As one, they dropped to their knees, heads bowed in reverence. "They think you've returned," a voice said from behind her, calm, male, and heavy with exhaustion, "but you're not her, and when they find out, they'll tear you apart." Lena spun around, the crown clutched tightly to her chest. A man stood at the far end of the trench, human, unlike the warriors. Above, his face bore a lattice of scars that told stories of battles survived but never forgotten. His eyes, deep and haunted, studied her with a mixture of disbelief and dread. "Who are you?" Lena managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Malrich," he answered, checking the weapon at his side, an action born of habit rather than immediate threat. "I served the last queen who wore that crown." His gaze hardened. "I also helped bring her down." Lena looked from Malrich to the kneeling warriors and back to the crown in her hands. It seemed impossible that such a small object could command such respect or such fear. "What do they want from me?" she asked. Malik's laugh was sharp and humorless. "Everything they want, salvation, vengeance, purpose," he gestured to the wasteland surrounding them. "Look what she left behind, they believe only she can heal it." "And you?" His eyes met hers, and in them, she saw the weight of memory, of guilt, of choices that couldn't be undone. "I believe you just became the most dangerous person alive." The burned throne room still bore the scars of its fall, shattered columns reached toward a ceiling that no longer existed, and tapestries, once vibrant with color, hung in tatters along the walls. Warriors had cleared a space in the center and built a fire that cast dancing shadows across the ruins. Lena sat on a makeshift seat, the crown resting in her lap. She hadn't worn it yet, something in Malrich's warning had given her pause. He stood nearby, maintaining distance from both her and the hooded warriors who had escorted them to this place. The tension in his shoulders spoke of a man ready to fight or flee at any moment. "Tell me about her," Lena said, her voice cutting through the silence. "The queen, the one they think I am." Malik's jaw tightened. "Her name was Soraya. She came to power during the Great Drought, when the 5 nations were already at each other's throats for what little water remained." His voice grew distant, as if reciting from memory. "She was beautiful, charismatic, she promised to unite the people, to lead them to prosperity." "And did she?" Lena asked. "She united them all, right under her boot." He gestured to the wasteland beyond the crumbling walls. "She used the crown to bend them to her will. Those who wouldn't bow were broken, those who couldn't be broken were eliminated." Lena looked down at the crown, its silver surface reflecting the firelight. What is it? How does it work? No one knows for certain. Some say it's a relic from before the Great Scorching, technology so advanced it seems like magic, others believe it truly is magic, that it amplifies what's already in the wearer's heart. Merrick's eyes darkened. In Soraya's case, it was ambition and cruelty. You said you served her. I did. I was her guard, her confidant. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Her lover. Lena studied him with new understanding. And your betrayer? Yes, the word hung between them, heavy with unspoken history. Why did you turn against her? Malrich turned away, his profile harsh in the firelight. Because, in the end, I saw what she truly was, not a savior, but a destroyer. She didn't want to heal the world, she wanted to remake it in her image. A sound from the entrance drew their attention. One of the warriors entered, carrying food and water. He approached Lena, keeping his eyes downcast, and placed the offerings at her feet before retreating. He spoke in a language Lena didn't understand. What did he say? She asked after he had gone. He called you the return, Malrich translated. They believe Soraya has come back to them through you. But I'm not her. No, you're not. Malrich's gaze was penetrating. But the question is, who are you going to be? Before Lena could respond, a commotion erupted outside, raised voices, the clatter of weapons. Malik's hand went to his sidearm, and he moved closer to the entrance. What's happening? Lena asked, rising to her feet. Doubt, Malrich replied grimly. Not all of them believe you're the true return, some think you're an imposter. His eyes met hers. And they're right. The arguing outside grew louder. Malik turned to Lena. You should rest while you can, tomorrow will be challenging. Lena nodded, exhaustion suddenly overwhelming her. As Malrich left to investigate the disturbance, she retreated to a small alcove that had been prepared for her. The crown, she placed beside her makeshift bed, its glow dimmed but still present, a constant reminder of the power she now held and the danger that came with it. Sleep, when it came, was fitful and filled with dreams of fire, of a woman with her face but not her heart, of a world burning beneath a silver crown. Lena woke to cold steel at her throat, moonlight glinted off the blade pressed against her skin. Above her, a hooded figure loomed, green skin made ghostly in the dim light, the warrior's eyes burning with fervor as he spoke in that strange language. You're an abomination, he said. Malrich's voice translated from the shadows, a false prophet wearing sacred skin. The blade pressed deeper, drawing a thin line of blood. He's going to kill me, Lena whispered, afraid to move. Yes, Malik agreed, still hidden in darkness. Unless you give him a reason not to. The crown lay just beyond her reach, its inner light pulsing stronger now, as if responding to her fear. Lena's eyes darted to it, and her attacker followed her gaze, his free hand reached for the silver circlet. Don't, Lena warned, surprising herself with the authority in her voice. The warrior hesitated, then pressed the blade harder against her throat, blood trickled warm against her blue skin. In that moment, something changed in Lena, fear gave way to determination, confusion to clarity. Her hands shot up, gripping the warrior's wrist with unexpected strength. Their eyes locked, his widening with surprise, hers narrowing with resolve. I am not Soraya, she said, each word deliberate. I never claimed to be, but I found the crown, and it chose me. She pushed his arm away slowly, the blade leaving her throat, that has to mean something. The warrior didn't move, frozen in indecision. A shadow detached itself from the wall, Malrich, his weapon drawn but not raised. It means nothing, he said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. The crown is just metal and light, it doesn't choose. Then why did they kneel? Lena challenged, never breaking eye contact with her would-be assassin. Why did they call you the return? Because they're desperate. Malrich answered, because hope is easier than truth. The warrior's blade wavered, then lowered slightly. He spoke again, his voice rough with emotion. What truth do you bring, if not Soraya's return? Malik translated. Lena considered her answer carefully. I bring my own truth. I don't know what that means yet, or where it will lead us. She reached for the crown, holding it up so its light illuminated all three of them. But I promise you this, I won't walk away from what I found here, not until I understand why I was brought to it. The warrior stared at her for a long moment, then stepped back, lowering his blade completely. He spoke once more, placed his hand over his heart, and left without another word. What did he say? Lena asked. Malik holstered his weapon, his expression unreadable. Then we will wait and see which fire burns in you. You could have killed him, Lena observed. Why didn't you? Because you didn't need me to. Malrich studied her with new interest. You diffused the situation yourself, barely. That's more than most could do. He sat on a broken piece of a column nearby. You're going to need that skill in the days ahead, not everyone will be so easily swayed. Lena looked down at the crown in her hands. I don't want power, she said quietly. Few who deserve it do, Malrich replied softly, but you can't walk away now, too many people have seen you with that crown. Too many hopes and fears have been attached to your appearance. He gestured to the world beyond the ruined walls. And there are worse fates than being treated as a returning queen, like what? His eyes met hers, serious and dark, like being hunted as a false one. Dawn broke over the scorched plain, painting the ash in hues of gold and crimson. Lena stood at the entrance of the ruined palace, watching as the warriors broke camp. Some had departed during the night, whether out of disbelief or to spread the word of her arrival, she couldn't tell. Those who remained, 12 in total, moved with purpose, gathering supplies and checking weapons. They would be her escort. Malric had explained her protection on the journey ahead. Away from here, had been his cryptic reply, this place isn't safe anymore. Now, as she watched the preparations, Lena felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her. The crown was secured in a leather pouch at her waist, hidden from view but still present, a constant reminder of the role she had unwittingly adopted. Malik approached, his face grim in the morning light. We need to move soon, he said without preamble. Word travels fast in the wasteland. Where are we going? West toward the mountains. He pointed to a distant line of peaks barely visible through the haze. There are settlements there, people trying to rebuild their lives after the war. They'll need to see you. Why? Because right now, you're just a rumor, a blue-skinned woman with the silver flame. Some will believe, others won't. His eyes met hers. But if they see you, if they hear you speak, then what? Lena interrupted, frustration edging her voice, what am I supposed to say to them? I'm not a queen, Malik, I'm not a leader. Until yesterday, I was just trying to survive like everyone else, and now you're more. He gestured to the warriors preparing nearby. Like it or not, you've become a symbol, and in this world that carries power and responsibility. Lena turned away, her gaze sweeping across the desolate landscape. I never asked for this. None of us asks for the roles we're given, Malik said, his voice softening slightly. We can only choose how we play them. Before Lena could respond, one of the warriors approached. He pointed to the horizon, where a column of dust marked the approach of travelers, allies. Lena asked, Malik, is your hand moving to your weapon, for enemies? We need to leave now. They departed within minutes, heading west with 8 warriors forming a protective circle around Lena and Malik. The remaining 4 stayed behind to observe the approaching travelers and, if necessary, delay them. The landscape gradually changed, the flat, ash-covered plain gave way to rolling hills dotted with the skeletal remains of trees here and there. Patches of stubborn grass pushed through the gray soil, small signs of life returning to a wounded world. By midday, they reached a shallow valley where a stream trickled between banks of stone. The water was cloudy but flowing, and the warriors refilled their containers with reverent care. "Clean water is precious," Mal explained, as they rested in the shade of a crumbling overhang. "Most sources were poisoned during the war." "How long ago was the war?" Lena asked, accepting a small portion of water from one of the warriors. 6 years since the final battle," Malik replied, his gaze distant. 6 years since Soraya fell and her armies scattered. He glanced at the pouch containing the crown. The crown disappeared that day. Many thought it was destroyed. "How did she die?" Malik's expression hardened. "She didn't, Lena." Lena nearly choked on her water. "What?" "Soraya didn't die," he repeated in a low voice. "She vanished. Some say she escaped through ancient tunnels beneath the palace, others believe she transformed herself into pure energy and fled into the cosmos." His laugh was bitter. "People will believe anything when the truth is too hard to accept." "And what is the truth?" Malrich met her eyes, and in his gaze, Lena saw a pain so deep it seemed bottomless. "The truth is that I failed. I wounded her, yes, I took her power, her armies, her throne, but in the end, I couldn't finish what I started." He looked away. "And because of that, the world has lived in fear for 6 years, waiting for her return." Lena absorbed this in silence, understanding at last why her appearance with the crown had caused such a stir. She wasn't just being mistaken for any queen, she was being mistaken for a tyrant who might still be alive. Their rest was cut short by a distant signal from one of the scouts, 3 sharp whistles carried on the wind. The warriors were immediately alert, weapons drawn. "What is it?" Lena asked. A scout, standing quickly, answered, "Trouble." "Malik?" Lena asked, as he moved closer to the entrance. "Not from behind us," he pointed ahead, where the valley narrowed between steep embankments. "From there." As if on cue, figures appeared at the top of the embankments, thin, ragged people armed with makeshift weapons. They looked down at Lena's group with the wary hostility of those who had learned to fear strangers. One of the warriors began to raise his spear, but Lena stopped him with a gesture. "No," she said firmly, "we don't attack first." The warrior hesitated, then lowered his weapon, though he kept it ready. Malik watched the exchange with interest. "What now, Your Highness?" he asked. And Lena couldn't tell if the title was meant sincerely or in jest. "Now we talk to them," she replied, stepping forward. One of the figures on the embankment, a woman with gray skin weathered by sun and hardship, called down in the same language the warriors used, "She wants to know if we bring war or peace," Malik translated. Lena looked up at the woman. "Tell her we bring neither, we're just passing through." Malrich relayed the message. The woman's response was immediate and heated. "She says no one just passes through with an escort of greenhoods," Malik explained. "She thinks we're scouts for a raiding party." "Greenhoods?" Lena glanced at her warriors, with their distinctive cloaks. "Soraya's elite guard," Mrik said grimly. Fear, across the 5 nations, dawned on Lena. No wonder these people were afraid of them, their companions represented oppression and death. "Tell her," Lena began, but she was interrupted by a commotion from further down the embankment. A child, no more than 10 years old, had broken away from the group and was scrambling down the slope toward them. Behind him, adults shouted warnings, reaching to pull him back, but the boy was quick and determined. He reached the valley floor and ran toward Lena, his thin face marked with dirt and desperation. The warriors tensed, spears half raised, but Lena moved forward to meet him. The boy spoke rapidly, pointing back the way he had come. Though Lena couldn't understand his words, his meaning was clear in his frantic gestures and the tears that cut clean tracks through the grime on his face. Mal translated his voice, tightly, "Their settlement was attacked 3 days ago. Raiders took their food, their medicine, some of their people are injured, including his sister. They're hiding in a collapsed outpost a few miles from here." The boy continued, grabbing Lena's hand and pulling her forward. They recognized the greenhoods and thought help had finally come. Mal added a note of irony in his voice, they've been loyal to the crown even after everything. Lena looked from the desperate child to the weary faces on the embankment, then to her own companions with their hoods and spears. In that moment, she understood the choice before her, turn away and continue their journey, or risk everything to help people who might still flee at the sight of her. Tell them we'll help, she said, her decision made. Tell them to take us to their wounded. Malik raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? We're exposed here, if word of your location spreads, it already has. Lena interrupted, you said it yourself, I'm a symbol now. What kind of symbol would I be if I turned my back on people who need me? She met his gaze steadily. Is that what she would have done, Soraya? Something shifted in Maurich's expression, a mixture of surprise and reluctant respect. No, she would have let them suffer, or worse. Then I'm already different, Lena said, and turned to follow the boy, who still clutched her hand like a lifeline. The collapsed outpost was a ruin of concrete and twisted metal, half buried in the hillside, as if the earth had tried to swallow it. Once a military installation, it now served as a precarious shelter for about 30 people, mostly women, children, and the elderly. They had arranged the interior as best they could, creating separate areas for sleeping, cooking, and treating the wounded. It was in this last section that Lena now stood, looking down at a young girl lying on a makeshift pallet. The child was perhaps 12, her breathing was shallow, and her skin feverish. A crude bandage wrapped her torso, spotted with blood that had long since dried to a rusty brown. Infected, Malik said quietly, standing beside Lena. Without proper treatment, she won't last another day. The boy who had led them here, the girl's brother, watched with desperate hope, as Lena knelt beside the pallet. Around them, the other survivors pressed close, their expressions were a mixture of fear, curiosity, and fragile hope. One of the greenhoods stepped forward, carrying a small pouch. He spoke to Malrich, who translated, they carry healing herbs, part of their standard supplies. It might help with the infection. The warrior offered the pouch to Lena, his head bowed in deference. She accepted it, feeling the weight of all eyes upon her. I'm not a healer, she said, hesitation in her voice. They don't expect you to be, Malrich replied. They expect you to be a queen. He nodded toward the pouch. A queen who provides for her people. Understanding, Lena turned to the elderly woman who had been tending to the wounded. The woman offered the pouch of herbs with a gentle smile. Please use these for all who need them, she said, and Malik translated. The woman's eyes widened in surprise, then filled with tears. She took the herbs with trembling hands and immediately began preparing them for use. As the hours passed, Lena moved among the survivors, listening to their stories through Maurich's translation. They had been farmers before the war, working fields that now lay barren after Soraya's fall. They had tried to rebuild, only to face raids from desperate people and organized bandits alike. They survived Soraya's reign only to suffer in her absence, Malrich observed, as they shared a simple meal with the settlement's leaders. Ironic, isn't it? He said. There's nothing ironic about suffering, Lena replied, watching as children played nearby, somehow finding joy despite everything. These people need protection, resources, and you think you can provide that? I don't know, she admitted, but I have to try. As night fell, the mood in the outpost shifted from weary acceptance to cautious celebration. The herbs had helped the wounded, particularly the young girl, whose fever had broken. The greenhoods had shared their rations, hunted game, and even helped reinforce the settlement's defenses. Small fires dotted the interior of the outpost, around which people gathered to eat, talk, and, remarkably, sing. The melodies were haunting, filled with minor chords and harmonies that spoke of loss and perseverance. Lena sat apart, watching the scene with a mixture of wonder and sadness. These people had so little, yet they found reasons to come together, to share what they had, to create beauty amid destruction. Malik joined her, offering a cup of something warm. They're making plans, he said without preamble. Now that they've seen you, seen what you're willing to do for them, they want to join us. Join us? Lena echoed, surprised. We're not an army, Malik, we're barely a group. You have the crown, he reminded her. To them, that means you have legitimacy and authority. He sipped from his own cup. By this time tomorrow, word of your actions here will have spread to at least 3 settlements. He glanced at her. They ruled with fear, you just showed them something different. Lena looked down at the leather pouch containing the crown. She hadn't worn it yet, hadn't even shown it to the survivors, yet its presence was felt, its potential power a current running beneath every interaction. Then help me rule with something else, she said softly. Malik studied her face in the firelight. Something in his eyes had changed since that first day. The cynicism was still there, but alongside it now was something that looked almost like hope. I'll try, he said finally. But remember, the crown doesn't make the ruler makes the crown. The silver flame walks again. The whisper spread across the wasteland like fire through dry grass, carried by travelers, merchants, and the survivors from the collapsed outpost, each telling added details, embellishing the truth. It transformed Lena from a woman into a legend. They said she healed the dying with her touch, they said greenhoods laid down their spears at her feet, they said the crown glowed like a star when she wore it, though in truth, she had yet to place it on her head. As Lena's group traveled west, they grew in number. First came the survivors from the outpost, bringing what little they owned, then came others, solitary wanderers, small family groups, former soldiers with haunted eyes. By the time they reached the foothills of the western mountains, Lena found herself at the head of a caravan nearly 100 strong. This is becoming complicated, Merrick observed as they made camp in a sheltered valley. Ahead, the mountain pass rose steep and treacherous, its upper reaches lost in clouds. Too many people moving together attracts attention. We can't turn them away, Lena said, watching as families set up tents and started cooking fires. They've given up everything to follow us, to follow you, Merrick corrected. And not all of them have pure intentions. He nodded toward a group of recent arrivals, hard-faced men and women with the bearing of soldiers. They kept to themselves, watching rather than participating in the communal tasks of the camp. Spies? Lena asked quietly. Or worse, Malrich replied. Fanatics, traitors, people looking to use you for their own purposes. His hand rested on his weapon, a habit Lena had come to recognize as a sign of his unease. You need to be careful who you trust. I trust you, she said, meeting his gaze. Something flickered in your eyes, surprise, perhaps, or discomfort. You barely know me, I know you could have killed me that first night and taken the crown for yourself. I know you've had a dozen chances to betray me since, and you haven't taken them, he said simply. I know, she replied with a slight smile. That's more than I can say for most people I've met since finding that crown. Before Malrich could respond, a commotion broke out near the center of the camp. People were gathering, voices rising in excitement or alarm. One of the greenhoods approached quickly, speaking to Malrich in urgent tones. What's happening? Lena asked. Malik's expression darkened. A ceremony, he translated. They've captured raiders, the same ones who attacked the outpost. They're demanding justice. His eyes met hers. Soraya's justice. Understanding dawned on Lena, execution. Yes, Mal's voice was grim. They expect you to preside as she would have. Lena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the mountaineer. Since finding the crown, she had been reacting to events, making decisions based on immediate needs and instincts, but this was different. This was being asked, to deliberately take lives to make a spectacle of death, as a demonstration of power. I won't do it, she said firmly. They'll expect an alternative. Malrich warned, these raiders killed people, stole food from children. The survivors want blood. Then they'll have to be disappointed. Lena replied as she moved toward the gathering crowd at the center of the commotion. 3 men knelt with their hands bound behind them, their faces were bruised, their clothes ragged and stained. Around them, people shouted accusations, their grief and anger palpable. As Lena approached, the crowd parted, the shouting died down, replaced by expectant silence. All eyes turned to her, wide with awe or fear. This, she continued, gesturing to the wounded and fallen around them, is Saraya's legacy: violence, division, death. I will not rule as she did. The crown burned against her temples, but she forced herself to continue. I refuse to perpetuate it. She turned to the man who had incited the attack. You wanted someone worthy of the crown, then help me become worthy. Help me build something better than fear. The man stared at her, his weapon still raised, but there was uncertainty in his eyes. And you, the woman who had demanded execution, your pain is real, your loss is real, but adding more death won't heal it. She extended her hand. Work with me to create justice that restores rather than destroys. For a long moment, no one moved. The crown's light pulsed with Lena's heartbeat, casting the scene in alternating brilliance and shadow. Then slowly, the weapons lowered, the tension eased, not entirely, but enough. Tend to the wounded, Lena ordered, and people moved to obey, some eagerly, others reluctantly, but all responded to the authority in her voice. As the crowd dispersed, Lena felt the crown's power ebb, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion. She swayed slightly. Malrich was at my side instantly, supporting me. That was either very brave or very foolish, he said quietly. Maybe both, Lena admitted, removing the crown with shaking hands. The metal was cool to the touch, its inner light dimmed to a soft glow. Did you know it would do that? No one knows what the crown truly does, Malik replied, helping her to a sitting position. Saraya never spoke of it even to me. His expression was troubled. But whatever it is, it changes you, even if only for a moment. I felt it, Lena whispered. The power, the potential. She looked up at him. Is that what corrupted her? The ability to impose her will? Perhaps, Mal said, or perhaps the crown simply amplifies what's already there. He studied her face. You chose differently than she did, that gives me hope. As night fell, the camp settled into an uneasy calm. The wounded retreated, the dead, prepared for burial according to their various customs. The captured raiders remained bound but were given food and water. The man who had challenged Lena the previous day kept his distance, watching but making no further moves. As the crowd dispersed, Lena felt the crown's power ebb, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion. She swayed slightly. Malrich was at my side instantly, supporting me. That was either very brave or very foolish, he said quietly. Maybe both, Lena admitted, removing the crown with shaking hands. The metal was cool to the touch, its inner light dimmed to a soft glow. Did you know it would do that? No one knows what the crown truly does, Malik replied, helping her to a sitting position. Saraya never spoke of it even to me. His expression was troubled. But whatever it is, it changes you, even if only for a moment. I felt it, Lena whispered. The power, the potential. She looked up at him. Is that what corrupted her? The ability to impose her will? Perhaps, Mal said, or perhaps the crown simply amplifies what's already there. He studied her face. You chose differently than she did, that gives me hope. As night fell, the camp settled into an uneasy calm. The wounded retreated, the dead, prepared for burial according to their various customs. The captured raiders remained bound but were given food and water. The man who had challenged Lena the previous day kept his distance, watching but making no further moves. Near midnight, Mal found Lena sitting alone at the edge of camp, gazing up at stars partially obscured by mountain mist. You should rest, he said, settling beside her. Tomorrow will bring new challenges. Every day does, she replied with a small smile. But at least I'm not facing them alone anymore. She glanced at him. Thank you for staying, even when I go against your advice. You've surprised me, Malik admitted. When I first saw you with the crown, I thought history was repeating itself, another blue-skinned woman destined to bring destruction. He looked away. I nearly killed you that night. What stopped you? Curiosity, at first, he said, then added, and then something else, the way you handled the warrior who tried to murder you, the way you chose to help the outpost. He met her gaze. You're not her, I see that now. You knew her well. Lena observed, you said you were her guard, her confidant, her lover. Malik was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with memory. I met Soraya before the crown, before she became queen. She was brilliant, passionate, determined to change the world. His eyes grew distant. I loved her. I believed in her vision of unity and peace. What changed? She did, gradually. At first, small compromises, later, necessary cruelties in the service of the greater good. His hands clenched. By the time I recognized what she had become, thousands were dead, and she was beyond reason. So you betrayed her, Lena said softly. I tried to save what remained of the woman I loved, Mal corrected. His gaze found hers. That's why I've stayed with you despite my doubts. I won't make the same mistake twice, I won't be blind again.